How you doing, buddy?
I'm very good, Mr. Pettigo. How are you today?
I'm all right.
Good. I'm glad to hear it, brother.
I'm all right, man. When that beat drops, right?
I started tapping my toe naturally.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
it's a toe tapper.
Where'd you come up with that? I actually meant to ask you.
My brother, my younger brother, and his best friend, our buddy Brad. So my brother Nick and our buddy Brad, super musical guys.
Would I know him?
I mean Nick Pettigo.
Okay. I know your brother, but
yeah. Brad is a New Berlin guy.
Oh, okay.
But great dude, and actually we all do a podcast together as well.
Is that the sports one?
No, it's not. It's called Derailed, and it is appropriately named.
Noted.
It just that one gets weird.
Yeah.
So
we'll have to talk about that off air.
Yeah. So this is Real Estate for Real. That's the name of this one that you're on. I'm Eric Pettigo, and I'm sitting down with the elusive Josh Kruse.
Only elusive when I need to be. Busy boy. That's all there is to it. No disrespect.
And it's funny because it was a running theme in the first few ones where I was like, no, Josh is ducking me. But I knew you weren't.
He caught me on a twisted week. That's all it was.
I knew you weren't really.
Yeah. Just had some stuff going on that couldn't focus. But I'm here now, my friend.
Yeah.
I'm here to enjoy this next hour with you.
And I appreciate it. And
absolutely.
And so all this is, and you've listened to a few of the other ones.
I have. In fact, I've run through all three of them. And
really?
Yeah. I had to.
Yeah.
I want to be prepared.
Everybody's done great.
Yeah, agreed.
And I thought Logan did a great job last week.
He did. And I mean, that boy, he does a great job all the way around. I mean, especially
dude.
for as young as he is. I mean, you're 22, right? Is what it is.
22.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's cool to see that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and we're seeing a lot more of that. I mean, I was just talking to some folks last night. I ran through a house with somebody, and they're talking to somebody on Kyle's team, on Kilbrew's team, and another youth.
Yeah.
As far as potentially listing their place.
Justin?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
See, I've known him forever, man.
Really?
He played baseball with my oldest son, so I've known him since he was like 8 or 9 years old.
Wow. See, I honestly, I think I've met him once or twice, but I've just not had any deal interactions with him or anything like that to where I've gotten to know him yet.
He and I are defending cornhole champions.
Which I knew that. You guys playing this year?
Oh, you kidding?
I'm jealous, man. That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
Isn't it? Yeah. We're I'm actually leaving town tomorrow. We've got a little trip to Vegas, the wife and I.
You told me about that. Yeah. So you're not super
jealous. But I enjoyed it. I mean, I've played it the last 3 years.
But Vegas.
Garrison and I, Well, and we're enjoying the Eagles at the Sphere Friday night.
Yes. You told me about that.
It's going to be a heck of an experience. That's for sure.
That is super cool.
Yeah, she's a big Eagles fan. So
who is it?
Exactly.
Red-blooded American.
Our 11-year wedding anniversary was just a couple days ago, so that's kind of
congrats on that.
Yes, growing up a little bit, slowly but surely.
And you got kids?
We do. Yep, we got 8-year-old Harper Rose running around the house, acting like a 16-year-old every day. You know how that is better than I do, for sure.
Yeah, I've got actual 16-year-olds running around the house.
Yes, they're a handful. There's no doubt about it.
So then, the question is, because our jobs demand a lot of our time.
100%.
And because we don't have a clock in and clock out time, other than the ones that we set, is how do you juggle that?
It's a delicate dance, as you know. And thankfully, the wife, and, again, I'm not sure how many people would, but Laura actually worked as an agent. So we both got licensed at the same time. And she had started working with my mother even prior to me, as crazy as that sounds. Yeah, so she was doing some of the assistant work, kind of clerical stuff, doing, paper filing and, promotion and that kind of thing. But it was always, obviously, the intention was for me to try to fill those big shoes that Cindy Cruz has got out there.
We're getting into that, buddy.
Yes,
Don't worry.
For sure. But she got started. I was in the process of kind of, I just finished up school in Carbondale, did my couple of years down there, came back up here and just fell into the bartending serving thing for a couple of years.
Really?
And, and ended up, so Snap Fitness, that little 24-hour fitness center, I ran that for just shy of 10 years. And that was kind of my transition, juggled that and real estate for about a 2.5 year period before I, fully committed on, forgetting about that 2 week paycheck and, chasing the commission every day, which I don't regret it. I mean, I don't. And, I know, just the same as you, I mean, being local boys, knowing the people that we know around town, I mean, it's, we've got the connections and the, the history to be able to kind of build the business that we both have. So it's been super beneficial for me. But, yeah, Laura was working for my mom, and we both got licensed at the same time. And just so I guess the point of bringing that up, she's very understanding. She knows what, she knows what the job demands, and can actually stomach what goes on with everything. But it's still, it's trying. We'll go to Vegas and I'll have 2 or 3 deals that I'm trying to negotiate while we're there, and bounce back and forth like that. But it's all right.
There's no thing as like an actual vacation.
There really isn't. Not unless cell service is eliminated. I have that once or twice a year where, we get out and just kind of country style stuff, float trip, that kind of thing.
And that's so hard for me
stressful.
too. Yeah. What am I missing out on?
Agreed.
So we go on cruises a lot. I mean, as much as we can. We love cruises.
See, I've never been on one.
Oh, you would love it, man.
And I've always wanted to do it. The wife feels a little restricted with that kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a internal, battle between the two of us.
But she's never done it.
She's never done one. And that's kind of, and Bugos is the same way. They enjoy doing those, and we've talked about it. And I know plenty of people that, that love doing it. We just have never taken that step.
Yeah, it's so much fun, but it's that stressful part is you're completely disconnected. I mean, you're in Cozumel.
Yeah, right.
You're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, completely disconnected, and it never failed. Because I've been cruising since before I got into real estate. Once I got into real estate, I mean, we still going on cruises. And then when I would get back into the States and turn my, get my phone out of...
Ding, 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 voicemails, text like crazy.
Never failed. I lost at least one, client every time. At least one where somebody was like, hey, I wanted you to show me a house, but I couldn't get a hold of you, so I called blah, blah, blah. And I was
where's that happy medium?
Well, so I'll tell you where it is. And you pay for the package where you can use your phone, and you pay for the package where you can use your laptop.
Sure.
And the happy medium is you just keep working.
Which kind of counterproductive there, isn't it?
It is.
It's happy times, sad times, all at the same time.
Yes and no, right? But if you're able to like put a deal together, or at least secure a client in the middle of the ocean,
100%,
and then you're like, well, that just paid
Success.
for this trip.
Yes, exactly.
Boom.
Exactly.
Right. Then you
for
high
sure.
five. You go get yourself a daiquiri.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a little clinky.
Good, man. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And then the wife's excited too. It's a mutually beneficial situation there.
Dude, you talked about your wife like understanding kind of the lifestyle because she was in it.
Correct.
My wife, thankfully is just super understanding, and I talked to her enough about this that I am confident that she would make a better agent than a lot of agents.
I know she's had her hand in a lot of your stuff.
Yeah,
some of the promotions and setting stuff up for you. I mean, you've said
creative
that in the past. Yeah,
with
that's
that
awesome.
stuff, and it's helpful. But we have a tradition. Anytime I get a deal together, we've done this my whole career. It's a high five, smooch on the lips.
There it is.
Every
I like
time.
it. I like it.
And if we're not together, I'll send her over a high five
for
emoji
sure.
and an emoji.
Nice,
And then she knows, and
nice.
she'll be like, yeah,
That's perfect.
what was that?
I like
Awesome.
it.
What'd you sell?
Well, and then you go home and you erase the chalkboard and you add that extra number to it.
You know about the
Yeah,
chalkboard.
hell yeah, dude. I always love that, man. Yeah, I always get excited
I
for you
need
when
to
I see that
update
number
that,
jump
man.
up. Oh, you haven't been?
It's been
Shame on
it's
you.
been a while.
Shame on
I'm
you.
busy.
I get it.
Recording podcasts.
Right?
And selling
do that
houses.
to yourself, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I felt really good about my chalkboard until I talked to Bugos. And he was like, yeah, my third year I sold 100 houses.
That
And I'm
boy,
like,
he works. He works. There's no doubt about it. And thankfully, his missus, we all love her, extremely understanding as well.
Yep.
And
That's
that's a big part of it. Yeah.
So for the people who don't know, which I don't know who that would even be, who might be listening, your mom is Cindy Kruse.
My mother is Cindy Kruse.
So-
my mother is a name that people recognize.
Especially Chatham people.
Exactly. And
because
28 years is where she's at right now. I think, she's hovering, just under that 30 years
Right.
of in the business. And if you have not established a name, that's recognizable in that kind of time frame, you've done something wrong, or at least have decided not to, go that far with it.
So you growing up, this is what your mom did.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
she, I can literally remember, my early high school years, her sitting in bed with big, thick books, pre-internet time, that kind of thing. I mean, everything was
Different
physical.
time.
Yeah. So I have literal memories of her sitting in her bed with these, 3-inch thick books, studying, preparing for everything.
So most people, and I've talked about this on the other ones, is nowadays we see young people wanting to get into the business. When we were growing up, not so much the case.
Correct.
Was that different for you, though? Right? Because your mom did it. You were growing up. So was this something you actually, as a young person, wanted to pursue?
I mean, at that age, watching her start, no. You know,
Okay.
I mean, it was one of those things. I mean, exactly. I mean, it was the same business then that what it is now, but probably harder. I mean,
Sure.
that was the times where keys were kept at the office. You had to run to the office and pick up that key before you went and showed the house, and then you had to return the key before you actually moved on to the next one. I mean, other people were waiting for it, that kind of thing. Carbon copy contracts where literally you're tearing the contract apart,
Yeah.
and giving somebody a white copy to
Press
keep them
hard.
the pink. Yeah,
Press hard.
exactly. But it's a little bit different time then. Weekly MLS books that that updated you on the new listings instead of our every 5 minutes I jump on checking to make sure I'm not missing something.
As soon as something hits the market, it's getting sent out to everybody. So no, and so when did that happen for you then? Where it's like, okay, this is the route I'm going down.
Sure. So I mean, I snuck out. I stayed in town for 2 years after high school. Did the kind of the casual Lincoln Land thing, and just kind of prepared for for growing up enough to get away from.
What was your plan then?
Honestly, I went to Carbondale for marketing, so just the basic business degree, just an excuse to get out of Chatham, and I had a couple close friends, a couple of them as well.
Buddy,
that were down there
Carbondale
with me. Yeah,
Carbondale's a good time.
Exactly. It little different now from the way I understand it. It's been a few years
hope.
since I've been down there, but it's not the school that it was when I was there.
Okay.
Which even when I was there, it wasn't the school that it was 4 or 5 years prior to that. I mean, natural progression of things, but I just used it as the excuse to get out of town and kind of spread my wings a little bit, and always kind of had it in my head. It only makes sense for me to follow in mom's footsteps.
Family
and,
business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
use
buddy.
the last name, and I'm comfortable enough, as a human to meet strangers and that sort of thing. So it just felt right. It made sense.
You've definitely got the right personality type
And that's the
for
thing
this
though.
business.
There's so many different personality types. You know that just as well as I do. I mean, there's a ton of different people that sell real estate. And, some of them do it great. Some of them don't do it great. Just kind of the
Name
nature.
names.
I could, but I'm not going to. We'll talk about that after the fact here. But no, it just kind of during school, I didn't really know. I mean, I had applied for a few marketing jobs, and just for whatever reason, never really felt like that was going to be fun for myself.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So got back into town. Ironically enough, started renting one of my mother's places just so I wasn't living in her basement, and started the Snap Fitness thing. And that really, that was a great situation for me after I got finished up with school. I think I was probably about 4 months shy of 10 years running those things.
Wow.
By the time I actually separated from that and focused solely on real estate. But just over the course of the time that I spent doing the Snap Fitness thing, it was nice. It didn't pay what I wanted it, what I would have enjoyed making right out of school, but it was a good progression thing for me. Thickened my skin a little bit, as dumb as it sounds, dealing with people for a $35 gym membership.
That's not dumb at all. That's like the thick skin that you need to have
100%.
to do this is understated.
For sure.
It falls under the category of what didn't they teach you when you were getting licensed.
100%, yeah.
And there's so much that goes into actually being a real estate agent that you have no idea until you just go cannonball into the deep end.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things is the thick skin, because you're putting yourself out there now. Right, you're on billboards, buddy.
Right. And I catch grief for that billboard.
I bet you do.
But you just, like you said, it's one of those things you can't really teach it.
Right.
You just got to be thrown into the mix. You got to deal with the problems as they get thrown at you, and just over time, you learn how to defend where you need to defend and open up when you need to open up.
So the billboard thing, if you're coming on Route 4, headed south into Chatham, that's been
Mother
Kruse real estate right
has
there.
Had that. If I were to put a time frame on it, I bet she has had that thing held down for probably 16, 17 years.
I was going to say, longer than I've been doing this.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. She's kind of in the process of, she's hitting the height of where she wants to be as far as everything. She's worked her butt off for so many years and really kind of, set her up. And, she's in a comfortable space now in life, just in that next progression where, you're not going to do this forever. And it's kind of it's a weird little situation. Her mother, I don't know that you and I would have ever actually discussed this, but my grandmother was a licensed agent in Lincoln.
Really? I didn't know that.
40, just shy of 50 years.
So you're a third generation.
I am a third generation, yes. And I got tiny little Harper on that billboard right now, too. So I don't know if I'm going to breed her for this or not.
Adorable.
But so Doris Oltmans is her name, and she actually had her own office in Lincoln for a good number of years. Oltman, Doris and Associates is what that was called.
Okay.
She still kicking, still pumping hard. She's 87 now, maybe 88. But she sold until she was 85. She was active until 3 years ago.
That's crazy to me.
During the pandemic, stuff just got crazy and got weird, and she just was like, "Well, I don't need to keep putting myself through this."
Why don't realtors retire like normal people?
Type A personality is the problem.
Okay.
In order to force yourself to get out there every day, like you said, put yourself out there, be open to dealing with problems every single day. I mean, that's just part of the part of the process here as far as selling real estate. You've got to have that type A go-getter mentality. It's hard. You can't be just sitting back in the background and waiting for people to come to you. Hard for those type. My mother, perfect example. She's not the type that's going to sit down on the couch and relax and watch TV during the day. Even to this day, she's probably out in her yard picking up sticks right now. Just not the type to sit back and pick up a golf club and go kill 4 hours like that. It's just she's got to have a goal for the day. She wants to have something done, and I think that's how the majority of real estate agents either are. It's
just kind of how we're wired, right? Like I can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine at some point in my life slowing down, and I'll do air quotes.
Sure,
slowing down a little bit, but really just diversifying things and potentially having other residents in other places in the country where I spend some of my time. But I don't ever see a time where I'm not a licensed real estate agent doing.
You're comfortable now. That's what it is. It's one of two extremes. And I mean, in our years, we've watched plenty of people start and stop.
Oh, and majority of people who start and stop.
Agreed. And that's, I think that's a big part of it. Is you get into it, you spend a couple of years. If you can get through that initial kind of sphere of influence, that's the big part of our real estate. And I know you've talked about this with a couple of the others, focusing on the people treating them right, keeping up with them after the fact. They're going to pass your name around, and that's a great way to build business when you treat people how they should be treated. But it's hard to you saying air quotes. That's perfect. You have
slow down, right? And it's like, okay,
which then at that point, and how do you really slow down? You get that phone call. You're the type of personality that's not going to want to say, "Thanks for the phone call. Really appreciate you thinking of me. However, I need you to call somebody else." And it's hard to push that off.
I mean, I can say, well, I won't chase down leads, but I don't do that now.
Right. Well, and again, being local, being the personality that you are, having the friend, again, that sphere of influence.
Sphere of influence, man,
it's huge.
Is so
it really
huge.
is. And that's a big part of why we see a lot of people start and stop is because they'll focus on that sphere, they'll deal with just those people, and then they don't follow up or they don't put any work out to, to kind of push that business out further. And then they get bored, they get tired, they get worried, why am I not selling anything? Just not the right personality to move forward if you don't force yourself to go through those extra steps.
Yeah. So I've always wondered this because I don't pump hardly any money into advertisement at all whatsoever. And that's just the way I choose to conduct my business. And so when I see park benches and billboards, I always wonder how much business comes from that. Like, have you had a call that said, "Hey, Josh, I saw you on the billboard"?
I can honestly say probably one hand worth of counting where I've had somebody say, "I saw you on the billboard, wondering if you can help out."
Right.
Which, of course, fantastic. One of those a year makes, justifies the expense for it.
Right.
But at the same time, it's still just kind of the brand recognition thing,
The presence of mind.
give me an excuse to throw that boom sign up so that people think of that and see it on a sold sign.
That's your thing,
that kind
man.
of thing.
Boom.
And it worked.
Sold.
Yeah. I mean, and again, thank you, Cindy Kruse. With her Yahoo
sold.
I mean, it was just kind of an easy conversion.
Natural progression.
Yeah, exactly. But
yeah.
So more so just kind of keep it in front of people's eyes.
Sure.
And I follow the same suit as you. I've never been the guy that has pumped a bunch of money into Zillow leads and that kind of thing. And we're just lucky because of the fact that we're local. We've got the outreach that we have with friends and family and that kind of thing. So the business, I think, has just always kind of naturally come to us. And then, of course, we treat people right, and the business expands from there.
Yeah, and it is truly so. There are people who've never talked to you before, but know exactly who you are and what you do, and that's the purpose.
Agreed.
And that's why I'm never knocking it. Like, it's when I see that kind of stuff and people are like, "Does that ever work?" And I'm like, "Well, not directly,
correct,
but indirectly,
exactly."
Because now anybody who hears your name,
hopefully they thinking know about a billboard and a boom sign and that kind of thing.
They know what you do and who you are, and that's the whole point of it, really. So, circle back around because your mom had the billboard. Now you have the billboard.
Yep.
So when you started, it was your mom's team.
Things have converted.
It's now your team?
Yep. So that's kind of another aspect of the way, again, like you said, everybody does business a little differently. Everybody kind of operates, and I know how you operate. And I am kind of similar to the way you like to have your stuff set up. I didn't have an assistant until a year ago. I mean, I literally was the same thing as you, one-man team, technically under Cindy Kruse Real Estate. Cindy Kruse, the team there was... bounce back and forth between a couple different agents coming in and coming out. But that was a big part of, my mom's success. And again, my mom's type A personality where she loves having that, that camaraderie and having the people around, helping motivate them, helps her motivate herself, keeps her on track. She's a huge numbers person. Right now, you pull her in this room, she's going to pull her little purse out, and she's got a form that was written in 2012, and she has every single house that she sold, price, people's name, address. That's everything. Awesome. And that's just kind of how she operates. So having that team was a great, just the way she operated, the way she loved it. Personally, same style as you. I like just kind of taking care of my own.
Yeah.
Making sure that it's, again, my personality. It's hard for me to let go, relinquish some of that control.
Yeah.
And it, obviously, me and a couple of the guys got our hands in some other real estate cookie jars right now.
Yes, so you do.
It became really difficult for me to get everything done during the day that I needed to get done. So I found myself sitting at the computer at 10 o'clock at night, catching up on the stuff that I wasn't able to handle throughout the afternoon. Just easy stuff, the computer stuff, putting listings in, that kind of thing. So having Ashley Gentis, I love you. If you ever listen, thank you.
Tell her to listen.
Yes, I will. I'll get on her. But she's come into the fold, and she's been fantastic for me, taking a ton of stuff off my plate.
Awesome.
But at the same time, it's probably where I stop. I don't know that I'll ever start collecting other agents. I have people talk to me all the time about trying to form teams, and again, just not really my my mindset. My capability.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. It's hard. I know. Here's what I do know is I need to expand. I need to do something because I've been doing this 11 years and I work full time for sure. Right. And it's like there's got to be a next step in my progression. And that's all stuff that I have to wrestle with.
About that before. Putting your fingers in some of those other things, throw a couple of rentals under your belt, that kind of thing.
Working on it.
It just again, it adds a different dynamic to your daily basis. But it helps you keep on track with the rest of the business. And you still, again, being a broker, you catch some inside info from time to time, and it's fun to be able to take advantage of that when the seller or buyer, whatever the case is interested in helping things out like that.
And and that's I'm working on it. I've come to terms with time to do something.
Yeah.
Was there anything? Let's see. Was your mom in full support of you getting into the business?
100%.
Okay.
Pushed me so hard for so many years, even before I started. If looking back, I guess I would have been 29 when I got licensed.
Really?
29 is when I got my broker's license.
Okay.
And I probably should have started at 25. I should have followed suit with Logan, gotten in a lot earlier.
So at 18?
I don't know about that. I wasn't as
Dude,
responsible as him
not
at
a
18,
chance.
unfortunately.
At 18?
Yeah.
No.
But no, that was, I did kind of delay the inevitability of jumping into it, but I got into the Snap Fitness thing. I helped build 8 different locations around Illinois. So it was, it was very satisfying to me to kind of, start putting those different clubs in different locations. And, I had all the employees calling me, that kind of thing. I was kind of considered the regional manager of the ones that are, our franchisee owned. So I fell into a very casual situation with that. And again, I wasn't making millions, but was making more than what I needed to at the time, being a single man.
Yeah.
Nothing
Young single guy.
Exactly. I mean, bought my first house with it, still own that house today. It's a rental, that one of those things. So it just, and that's kind of how I operated, is I bought that one, kept it, moved into the next, kept that, and then have added, a handful of others since then.
See, I wish I would have had the foresight. When I bought my first house, I was still working with my family's company.
Sure.
And I bought my first house for like $100,000. And it was over in Glenwood Knolls. Is that what it is? Like a Birch Drive?
Yeah.
Lake Knolls.
Yep.
Lake Knolls. Yeah, Lake Knolls. And when it was time for me, when my wife and I got together, I moved in with her, and we just sold that place.
Sure.
Like,
it's fun getting a nice proceeds check, but
sure.
But at the same time,
but if I would have had the foresight, then
I probably wouldn't have, if I didn't have my mom, behind
exactly,
me helping,
exactly. I had nobody, in my year that had any sort of like real estate experience whatsoever. I mean, both my parents own their houses, but
if they're not in that mindset, they're not
right.
They're not going to push it in your head. So,
and I'm always thinking of it now, like, oh man, because even when we did sell it, now keep in mind we bought it when they were just giving away houses. Like, this story is great, man. My dad, smart guy, he was like, we got to get you. You need to not be renting. Let's get you a loan. You need to buy a house. And I'm like 21, 22, something like that.
Thanks,
so
Dad.
we go into the bank, and this is, you can do that math. This is early 2000s. And right after that, everything crashed down because of the way that this was being.
Right.
And we walked in. I won't mention any bank or anything like that, but it was much easier to get pre-approved back then.
Sure. Yeah.
So me and my dad walk in, and he said, son wants to buy a house. We need a loan. And they said, all right, we need to, run the credit. He's like, I didn't have any credit cards or anything, but here his pay stubs. He's good. Let's do it.
And they were like, deal, and
they were like,
go find
all
something.
right, here you go.
Sure.
Go shopping. And it was so easy, and I had zero credit history. Nothing.
So 2008, when I bought my first one. Completely different experience.
Oh, I'm sure.
At that point, I had only bartended or served. Plenty of money in the bank, still working at the time, making a few $100 a day, serving tables, that kind of thing.
Sure.
But it was all cash. I looked horrible on paper as far as my $1.87 that was, minimum wage.
So you had to jump through some hoops.
I had to jump through a lot of hoops.
Yeah, buddy.
One lender, honestly, even with my mom standing at my side talking to some of these bankers, nobody could justify giving me the loan that I needed for what I wanted to get.
Yeah.
And I won't throw the name out there, but one lender.
We'll quit recording here.
There it is. But one guy who's no longer selling has gone through some things in his life, but he was the one who put his trust in me, and it was fantastic. And I used him for the first few years of my broker's license.
Sure.
I mean, I pushed a lot of business his way, but he's since stepped away from the business, so just not part of the process anymore. But I was extremely grateful for him at that time, helping me out and getting me going, and just kind of helped build where I'm at now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when we sold that place a few years later, the market had changed significantly. So that proceeds check wasn't much of anything at all.
Sure.
Right. So anyhow.
But imagine if you own that thing today,
buddy.
I mean, another 100 on top of what what you paid for it easy.
Yep. And and then the income that could have been coming through the whole time.
Right.
It would have been we would have had it paid off forever ago. It's just those things in hindsight, it's like, man, I wish I would have known. But the good thing is it's a mistake that my kids will not make.
100%.
And that's kind of the benefit of understanding.
That's parenting. We go through the trials and tribulations. We learn what to do and what not to do, and then try to pass that along.
Yeah, buddy. So one thing that I've always noticed about you, this is like an abrupt transition here. We're going to lighten it up.
Throw it at me, yes.
One thing I've always noticed about you, we went to high school together, but I didn't really know you in high school.
No,
I was a senior, you were a freshman.
Yeah, far enough apart.
By my senior year, I was doing like the work program where I was going for the first half of school and then I was out. So
was that vocational? Is that what you're talking
no,
about?
it was called co-op.
Oh, okay.
And
I remember that now.
Right.
Yeah,
and I went to I worked at McDonald's in high school. So I went like the first.
I worked at McDonald's.
Yeah, but not the Clear Lake McDonald's. That's where I worked.
Touche. Yeah, I opened that Chatham location when that thing came.
Yeah, I was already working at McDonald's before Chatham opened.
Sure,
I was already
that would have been
a two-time employee of the
sophomore year
month
school, I think,
before that one even opened.
Wow, that a boy.
Yeah,
That's not surprising. You're likable.
2 silver spatulas, buddy.
That a boy.
But so I would, I went to school for like the first 3 or 4 periods or whatever, and then I was just out every day. So I didn't know many freshmen when I was a senior. So my first real introduction to you was after I got licensed and met you. Like, man, this Josh Kruse is always a well-dressed individual.
I did
like
wear
your
a lot
sense of
ties
style,
when
man.
I started.
But even now, though,
yeah, well, it's the girly side of me, I got.
I don't
shoes.
have that.
Yeah,
the sense of fashion, I got none.
It's all right.
Absolutely,
you don't need
none.
it. That's the thing. It's.
I know. I don't need it.
Yeah,
but that's just ingrained in you, or is that like?
It is. I don't know why.
That's awesome.
In fact, I think we talked about this. I'm in the process of potentially building a new house, and our closet is bigger than a bedroom for the most part.
Yeah,
and
good.
It's
be
obnoxious, but
you only sleep in the bedroom.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You need closet space. That's where all your clothes go.
We're in the process of trying to dial that in, and it's going to lend itself to the abundance of clothes
for all your clothes.
Yes.
So your wardrobe is extensive.
It is probably more than it should be. But I'm also that guy that can still rock the same thing I was wearing 10 years ago.
Right.
I mean, I've got stuff that just still fits right. Still in style.
That's great. Something you've probably noticed since you've been licensed here is the attire for agents just in general has gotten a lot more casual.
It has.
I'm 11 years in, and I remember when I first started, every day I was here with Pat, Pat Sellinger, which I give so much credit for any success I have today.
That's
and
awesome.
Pat's out of the business now, but what he did for me as a new agent is like it's missing, I think, now. So we can talk about that. Yeah. But every day I would show up for the first like 3 or 4 months after I was licensed. Some slacks, button up, tie, dressed up for the job. And then as I kind of started going in the business a little bit and getting a little more confidence, I was like, I'm not doing that.
I'm not choking myself.
Right. I would still dress up for closings. Then I would dress up in
yeah.
time. But then I was like, now I'm going to start. I remember Pat at one point being like, "You're the first agent I've seen wear shorts into the office." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, nobody wears shorts in here." And I didn't think anything of it. I mean, I wasn't wearing like basketball shorts.
Right, but still.
A little more cash.
Yeah, right.
And now, I've been at closings with agents where they're wearing sweatpants and a hat at a closing.
Rocking their flip-flops.
Yeah.
And everybody's got their own way of going about things. And I think that people, people are drawn to that. There's certain people that want a little bit more of a casual situation and don't want you to show up in a 3-piece suit when you walk in.
I've gotten that. I've gotten like, what we like about you is you're not so buttoned up.
For sure.
You wore a Jordan shirt to our first meeting, and it's like, and there's that. But I also have gotten where, I'll show up for the first time somewhere. And not even like I'm dressed to play pickup or anything. I'll still be like golf shirt or something. Or maybe if it's fall time, I've got a hoodie on, something. And I won't have met these people before. Some will be like, "Oh, we're waiting for the realtor," or there'll be.
Is it casual Fridays today?
or I'll show up with my clients who I already know, and there'll be another realtor who maybe I don't know getting ready to leave the property.
And they're not sure.
Yeah, right. And they don't want to hand me the key over. They're like, so is your agent coming? And I get that a lot.
Sure.
And I'm like, yeah, it's me. I'm the agent. Like, oh, you don't look like an agent.
Well, mind your own business.
What's an agent look like?
Exactly. Yeah.
So what? I got this hoodie on.
Well, and that's
in my
what's crazy.
Illini
Like
hat.
you said, even in our time. I mean, I'm only a year ahead of you. I mean, I'm 12 years is what I'm at here. But there, I mean, I can remember my mother. I mean, talking about this before I started. Sam Nichols, one of the original 7 that started the real estate group. 100%. You walked in shorts. You walked in a t-shirt. He'd tell you to walk out of the office.
I bet.
And it was, and I don't know how well you know Sam, but
I've never met him.
Okay, he's a good guy. I mean,
seems like he wouldn't have liked me much.
Just old school. Well, and truthfully, I mean, wouldn't like a good majority of agents these days, And I mean, I wear shorts, and I mean, that's no big deal. But
I'm sure they're really nice.
They are nice shorts. I'll give that to you. Yeah, they are. But no, he, that's just. I think that's just the progression of the way the whole business has changed. All the way across the board. I mean, it's. Just any business, I guess. There's always going to be some transition like that.
Yeah, and and this is probably not for 2 guys to talk about, but I've talked to some female agents before, kind of along the same thing. They're like, yeah, we can't get away with that like you do. I can't show up in.
It's actually, unfortunately, that's true.
I know. I can't show up in like sweatpants, and it's like I won't get taken seriously, and it's like. Man, that's unfortunate, and that's not fair.
It's a mentality too, I think. You go in and you express that confidence. I think a lot of times people look past, the shirt or the pants that you're wearing.
You would
at
think.
At the same time, but it's still, I mean, it's different for a woman.
It is.
About that.
It is, yeah. So anyhow, yeah. I knew I had to get in some attire talk.
I get it. I'm not mad at you.
Because you are one of the best dressed agents in town.
Well, thank you.
And I've always been like, man, that sense of style I don't have.
Yeah.
So
it's all right,
I'm a golf shirt kind of guy, or if it gets a little chilly out.
You look good.
Thanks, buddy.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Always clean cut beard, that
my
kind
mom
of thing.
thinks I'm handsome.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I like that.
So, what are some things, we touched on a little bit earlier, like they didn't teach you this when you were getting licensed. What are kind of some things along there? If there are agents out there or people out there wanting to become an agent, and I say this all the time. Yeah. You learn the legalities and stuff, it's all useful information when you're taking your test to get licensed, but you don't really know like what you're getting into.
It's like learning how to swim. You just got to dive in, is really what it is. And I mean, I think a big thing that I learned, and again, as silly as it sounds, I mean, just serving tables, dealing with the public, that's really all I ever did, through college. And, and after this, couple random little K's merchandise for a short period.
You worked at K's?
I worked at K's in high school, sporting goods department. Yeah. And I still, I still know a handful of people from there that, I still keep in touch with. I mean, it was good. But, like I said, just learning how to deal with the public and smile when you don't want to smile. I mean, I think that's tolerance is probably a big thing. And I know plenty of agents who wear their emotions on their face, and that, that hurts you. I mean, that slows down somebody else getting comfortable with you. So being able to smile through the hard times and tolerate some of the stuff that you wouldn't necessarily want to, go home and scream in a pillow when you get home at night, and you'll feel a little bit better. But that was a big part of really kind of getting into this. And and again, you just every deal's different. Obviously, that. I mean, any agent does. So I mean, you just got to be able to kind of just grin and bear it, work through those problems, and then when it's done, it's satisfying. When you've solved the problem and satisfied multiple people, yourself, your clients, the opposite side of the deal, it just it brings a little peace of mind after everything's said and done.
Yep. No, I agree, man. We're simpatico
agreed.
On a lot of stuff.
Yes.
How are you adjusting to these new changes?
Really, and in the grand scheme of everybody that I've spoken with, both agents, buyers, sellers, haven't seen a whole lot of change, thankfully.
Right.
I mean, and there's a certain way of talking to people and explaining the situation so that somebody isn't overwhelmed or confused as to what's going on with everything. But I think for the most part, most sellers have kind of gotten their minds wrapped around, why would I make it harder on myself to sell my house by telling, half of the people that I'm not going to pay you?
Sure.
I mean, that's obviously the big kind of the elephant in the room here is, his willingness to pay a buyer's representation to bring the buyer to your house and get the offer that you want to get. Obviously you and I both know it's always the buyer paying for it anyway. The seller's not going to be able to pay for the agent if the buyer doesn't bring that cash or bring that loan to the
There you
table
go.
at the end. So, I mean, it's just a different way of thinking about it. We've had to kind of switch gears a little bit. One extra form to, put in front of a buyer or a seller and, kind of explain things a little bit further. But I think that's just the natural thing that's going to happen in real estate. I mean, stuff always changes.
So we do this at our office. We do the coffee and questions, sometimes weekly, sometimes bi-weekly.
Thank you, Michael Nettle.
No joke, man. It's so great. He does such a great job. And I talked to him today about jumping on here with me at some point.
Good.
So
he'd be a good one.
Yeah. It's like an encyclopedia of real estate knowledge. It's insane. But, we were in there today and we're talking about what we're doing wrong, with these new changes. And
what's notable? I didn't zoom in today.
There's nothing. I mean, it's not really what we're doing wrong necessarily, but it's something that I've always wondered. Right. So if I'm a listing agent, we have our company policy with the commission that we have to get agreed to on the front end. And so let's just say theoretically that company policy is 6%.
Theoretically. Yes, that's appropriate word.
And it's company policy. Right. And that's what we have to get agreed to. And also we have to be willing to pay half of that as a co-op, which we can no longer advertise in the MLS. And those are the rules. And I'm sure you've gotten these calls, as have I, on your listings from agents, both at our office and at other offices. They don't say, are you paying a co-op? They say, what's the co-op? And so then I'm telling people 3%. And that's what I'm telling them. And so then I feel like what a lot of agents are doing now, because the buyer agency agreement we have to get signed, where we write in what we are getting paid. And I feel like there are probably agents now who aren't filling that part in until they ask.
That realistically could be the case.
And that's not how it's supposed to work. And so I feel like, and I brought this up today at our meeting, am I doing what's in the best interest of my seller when people ask, what's the co-op? Am I working in their best interest if I give that number out?
As opposed to saying, just present an offer, ask what you want to ask. And
as opposed to saying, they're willing to pay a co-op based on your offer.
Sure.
Make your offer. Why? I feel like if I don't, then I'm dictating what they write in there. Right? Because if they're willing to write an offer where they're only asking for 1 or 2%, but I told them on the front end,
you're Superman for your seller at that point.
Right. If on the front end, if I sit down on that listing contract and I tell them, hey, listen, we need to be willing to pay up to 3%. But you never know, right? They've got their own agreement. When they make their offer, they're going to ask for whatever they ask for. Might be 3, might be 3.5, might be 2, might be 0.
Right. So I've gotten those phone calls as well, obviously. Right. I mean, we're a month into it now, month and a couple weeks into it, the official changes. And I have been forcing myself to be very vague with it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying my seller's being a great seller and they're willing to cooperate.
Sure.
And I'm just leaving it at that.
I think that's what you have to do, man.
Because I've had, obviously had some sellers that are only at 2.5%, so, I'm trying not, like I said, trying not to dictate, or like you said, trying not to dictate what shows up on that purchase contract.
Right.
I like to just kind of leave it very open-ended. My seller's willing to work with you. Bring us an appropriate offer. We'll work through it.
There it is.
And, and again, at this point, we're not seeing a lot of inappropriate offers anymore.
No.
I mean, it's been 3-4 years of us, getting, having to deal with getting beat up on listings. And, we're in that weird little space right now where we're starting to see it. There's houses that have been listed for, a month or two that normally would have been gone in the first week, 2-3 years ago. But it's just the natural change of the whole market and everything that comes along with it.
We're getting a little balance back.
Exactly.
Which it
we
is
need
good.
It, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And what's beautiful though, I mean, even with that balance, people are still getting top dollar for their houses.
Sure.
We've got the last year's worth of exorbitantly priced houses that have those comps that the appraisers have gone through and filed everything. They close in the MLS, and now we know what it's sold for. You can base that off of it. Base the next listings off of it. So that so we're still. It's not like people are losing. Going backwards on the value of their homes by any means.
Not at all. And so I went. I had a listing appointment last night, and this is something we all hear all the time too. I mean, I'm sure if we wanted to sit down and like make a list of questions we all get and just things we all hear. I mean, we all hear the same thing. So,
sure.
you know, we say, all right, we need to be priced at X amount. We put that out there. And then the seller says, okay, so then should we go $5,000 above that to give ourselves room? To,
Probably not. Well, that's not what I said. You know, is that what I said? No.
And but that's, I mean, how many times? You can't count how many times.
I mean, 100%. You're always going to get that, and that just.
So how do you answer that? Right.
So personally,
I see you've got a trophy up there for the best script.
That
2020.
was a fun one. Yeah. Kyle did good with that. That was a fun little experience.
So what's your answer to that question? Because you get it.
The way I kind of like to talk to my sellers, and you know, I'm sharing some of my personal operations.
That's what this is all about. If you don't want to, I'll
no, not at all. So it's all love. Everybody's in the same game here. So
ELE.
You know, my the way I kind of talk to my folks is I say, look, you don't want to be the one who looks greedy. You know, buyers are smart these days. There's so many different tools for buyers to look at a house. You can spend 60 seconds on Zillow and find every single property that is closed within that radius around the property in the address or in the neighborhood, whatever the case is. So it is super easy for buyers to evaluate the real number that a house should be at. I don't like to look greedy. You know, on the selling side, I want to list it appropriately. That way the buyer's not coming at us saying, my gosh, you've got this way overpriced. I'm not going to offer you that. Let the buyers be the one to drive it up.
There you go.
And then that way at that point, negotiation stage, we can kind of hold them to the fire and say, okay, if you're willing to sign this purchase agreement at $25,000 over asking price, that's what my seller expects to see at the closing table. You know, whether that's a appraisal gap coverage or, you know, whatever the case is, that's kind of the way I like to do it. It just makes it a little bit more simple and clean cut for the seller side. Let the buyer be the one who's willing to decide how expensive that house should be, should finalize that.
100%. Along those same lines, I think I say the same thing. I just, my own spin on it is I always try to tell my sellers in this market, and this is specific to this market.
Of course.
If it switches back where it's more of a buyer's market, then that number that you land on changes a little bit. But right now, when we still have such a strong seller's market, what I always tell my sellers is, hey, if we price this right, there's no chance we leave money on the table.
Agreed.
Right? So if we go $5,000 under where we should be, guess what? It's going to get bid up. That's how this stuff goes. And if it doesn't,
and it's years
then we overpriced it.
Right.
So let's say, for instance, it's we say $300,000, and they're like, well, let's do 310, give ourselves some wiggle room. I say, no. We do 3. That's going to get the buyers in. And now everybody is wised up to know that we put in our offer and we attach our escalation clause. And then that drives that number up. You're not leaving money on the table unless that house isn't worth more than the 310 and we price it above that. Then nobody's going to drive that up. Now you're going to sit on the market for a little bit, and now you're going to get these lower offers.
And then you've got carrying costs that come along with it, and that's just something a lot of people don't take into consideration. Sellers paying their property taxes, paying their utilities, paying another month or two's worth of mortgage payments. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff that comes into play that until you really kind of sit down with the pen and paper and dial everything out, it's hard to really think about that.
And
stuff.
I always tell them we could price this at $275. And we're going to get
for sure.
We're going to get what the market determines it's worth.
Well, and that's a perfect way of saying it. A buyer's only going to pay what they're willing to pay.
Exactly.
And again, just with the information and the readily available information that's out there these days, a buyer's not going to overpay unless they can justify doing it. And if there's reasons to not, give an exorbitant number on a property, they're going to use those reasons.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of. Again, buyers are smart these days.
They are.
It's really easy for them to have the right information even before they step foot on the property. And naturally, a buyer spending the money they're spending on these houses and making one of the biggest investments of their lives, they're going into it with a certain mindset no matter what. Most of them have done their research and know what they're walking into and know where they're willing to go even before they've judged what the house has got to offer.
Yes, and buyers are more educated than they've ever been before. And so I don't know how much time you spend on social media. It's an unhealthy place.
That it is.
But a necessary
place.
Evil
for sure.
But there is a growing narrative We don't even need buyer's agents anymore, especially now with this new settlement. We can go straight to the listing agent of whatever house we want, tell them we don't want to work with them, still buy that house. We don't have to sign any buyer agency agreements. We can potentially get a better deal on the house. And so we as agents have to like kind of show our worth as a buyer's agent. And I've wrestled with, what is more important, a buyer's agent or a seller's agent?
That's a valid question,
right?
I mean, really, in my mind, equally important, obviously.
I agree,
but I think that an argument could be made that a buyer's agent would probably be more important.
I think so. Like if you had to pick one, they're both
arguments could be made both
extremely
ways,
important,
for sure.
And it also the market also decides now in
100%.
In a buyer's market,
role reversal from where we're at right now would be different.
Yeah.
But, there's so many more, in my mind, there's so many more easy ways to misstep on the buyer's side than there are on the seller side.
Sure.
Seller, biggest thing, just disclose. I have that conversation a dozen times a week. There's no reason to hide something. You're only going to shoot yourself in the foot and cause yourself more stress and headache, potentially cause yourself more stress and headache down the line. Buyers, again, a lot more steps have to be taken on their side, financing issues, that kind of thing that have to be worked through. In my mind, having that representative standing by your side to say, okay, do this, don't do this, it just makes more sense. And again, like we said earlier, you're not getting to the closing table if the buyer doesn't do their part.
Right.
And,
right.
Seller can do everything right on their side.
And a lot of it depends on the education level of the buyer or the seller. If you got somebody who's bought 7 or 8 properties in their life, they're not going to need you to hold their hand as much, but a lot of them still understand your worth as an agent, as far as gaining access to properties, as far as
taking responsibilities off the table.
Exactly. Coordinating everything, inspections that might need to happen, and getting all the necessary paperwork in the right place, and potentially learning of available properties before they become public, so they understand your worth there. Even the most educated of buyers still, I think, don't use a buyer's agent.
Yeah, exactly. And don't have the connections that, that we've got. And
exactly.
That's what 11 and 12 years in the business does. Over time you build up that rapport with the other agents, and you get those phone calls and that kind of thing. And I'm that guy that does it. I like to make phone calls directly to agents and talk to them. It just keeping it personal, in my mind, makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
In fact, today, I just talked to an agent. She posted something on our Little Movers and Shakers Facebook page. Hey, I'm looking for this, and it's exactly what I'm getting ready to list today or tomorrow.
Perfect.
I made that phone call, and she's already chomping at the bit to get in. So it's keeping those friendship levels. Whether it's a true friendship, whether it's a work relationship type thing. Keeping those lines of communication open, make all the difference in the world to me, the way I operate.
And I don't care how good of friends we are, I'll give you the heads up on a listing.
100%.
However, I'm not going to sell it to you until it hits the open market.
We still have laws that we have to abide by, and
that we should abide by.
100%.
That a lot of people don't.
People don't, but people get bit all the time.
Yeah.
Again, no names named, but I can count a number of agents who have seen those unfortunate fines from the association for pulling stuff that they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be that guy.
No, man. No.
It sets you up for continuing to do those things, and you get in that mindset, and you get in big trouble.
And it's a conversation that we have to have with sellers a lot too, where if somebody comes, and I've had, like with a coming soon listing, somebody comes and makes a great offer, sight unseen. Here's a great offer, and my sellers go, "Oh, that's great. That's exactly what we wanted. Should we just take it?" And then I have to talk them out of taking this offer. Not if they want to, they want to. I'm obviously working for them.
Yeah.
But I have to explain to them how it's not in their best interest to just take the first offer that comes along in this market, and that it is in our best interest always to let, however many 550 agents we have in our association do their job with their buyers and come in and potentially drive that price up.
And you always have those circumstances. Of course, there's going to be extenuating circumstances where people don't want to go through those motions.
Right.
had a lake listing a couple weeks ago. They didn't want to sign out front. They didn't want to go through the process of, week worth of, 50 people strolling through their house,
Right.
whether they're, true buyers or whether they're just looky-loos. So, made a few phone calls again, got personal, reached out to the agents that, that have been asking for those things, asking for those lake listings, opportunities to get into something. 7 or 8 showings in a 2-day period and multiple offers by the end of the weekend.
There you go.
So
but your sellers
100%.
were completely educated on the
100%.
process, understood, and that's what they wanted, and you were acting in their best interest.
Exactly. They made the decision.
I think, to me, it's the important and something that agents that we all need to work on is those conversations where we make sure that we are putting all of the information that is possible in the hands of our clients to allow them to make their decision.
Exactly. The educated decision, and then the liabilities off our shoulders.
Exactly.
We've done our part. We've made sure they understand the different routes that could be taken. Let them decide what turn to take.
And I know you get this all the time. And so it's, you'll have a buyer. Okay, what should we offer? All right, should we accept that? I mean, should we accept that counter offer? What should we, and my line that I always give is,
I want to hear this.
It's easy for me to spend your money.
Yeah.
It's not mine.
Agreed.
So this has got to be up to you. I'm going to give you all the info that I have. I'm going to, tell you if I think that's too much or that it's worth it, or, based on potential appreciation of the area.
And we've got facts that we can rely on.
Exactly.
I mean, it'd be different if we were just kind of, using years worth of experience and only that, and saying in my past deals, this is what happens. But being able to physically put something down in front of them, set a series of 4 or 5 comp listing sheets out in front of them, and say, okay, we fall in the middle of these. Here's the median price. Here's what you should expect to see on an appraisal, and then you've got to make your decision.
But it's your decision.
Exactly.
It's not mine.
Exactly.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love that they put that kind of trust in me.
For sure. Well, you've worked your butt off to get to the point where your opinion is valuable.
Yeah,
and it is valuable.
So's yours, buddy.
Oh, thanks, friend.
And then it's same with the listing process, right? Is you give them information. Right. Hey, these are the sales. Here's the pictures of the inside. This is, this was updated to this extent. It sat on the market this long. They took this much for it. You know what I mean? And here's my recommendation. But if somebody's like, what do we, whatever you say to list it at, it's your decision. I've had people tell me, this is your decision. You're the boss.
Goodness gracious.
And I'm like, no.
That makes my palms sweaty just thinking about
it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But, I mean, like I said, that level of trust, I feel great. That's awesome. But at the same time, it's not our decision.
Agreed.
So...
And for the most part, even if the seller says that to you 9 times out of 10, you give them a number that they're not happy with, they're gonna put you in your place. I mean, they want. It's a lot of times I feel like you're almost getting tested. What would you list this at? Where would you go? And oh no, I don't like that number. I need more than this. So
it's funny because when you go into a listing appointment, they always want to know. All right, so what do I list my house for? What do you think? And I always, I always want to know their number first. You tell me what you're expecting to hear right now. And it's that fun little chess game back and forth.
Right.
It's like a game of, real estate chicken.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
But I like to know, like, what's your expectations here before I tell you.
For sure.
Because I've done that before. I'll think, okay, here, I think you're here. And they're like, whew. Well, I was expecting, you were expecting something unreasonable, and now I just hurt your feelings.
Exactly. And it's a team effort. You know, I mean, I have that conversation with my folks all the time. This isn't just me. This isn't just you. We're doing this together. I obviously want to maximize the investment for you. I want to get you as much as I possibly can, but I also want to avoid as many problems to fall on your plate as I can.
Yeah.
And if you take these 3 or 4 suggestions into consideration, base that off of what you're thinking in your head, let's find a happy medium that makes sense for everybody.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, man, these conversations with clients, it's you just have to get that comfort level after having so many. And that I always am trying to explain to them, like, listen, there are infinite scenarios because the wheels start turning. Okay, well, if I say this, and then what if they say that? And then what if we go this way? And what if, and it's listen, you're getting too far ahead. The appraisals are a big one. People are like, so what if it appraises for this? And then what, just listen.
One step at a time.
We can't control that right now.
Exactly.
All we can do is agree with what's in front of us, sign what's in front of us, navigate through whatever's down the road.
Agreed. And there's always going to be twists and turns. I mean, that's just real estate, no matter what it is, whether it's a $50,000 house or $1 million house. I mean, everything's got its own little nuance that's going to require a different step. And again, as we talked about earlier, tolerance, just making sure that everybody's understanding each other and can deal with the different problems as they're presented.
If there weren't twists and turns, if there weren't turbulent transactions, if there weren't unexpected hurdles that popped up, if there weren't difficult things to work through, we wouldn't have jobs.
Agreed. That really is the case.
If it were...
Put it on Facebook and you show up at the closing table 30 days later.
If it were as simple as, hey, this is what I'm asking. Hey, this is what I'll give you. You know what? That works for me. Shake hands.
Right.
Shake on it.
Which is what it used to be,
right.
obviously.
Right.
And I mean, even in our time, what did contracts, were they 4 pages when we started? I think.
Oh, I mean, the initial listing
purchase,
or the purchase agreement.
They were 4 pages when we started, and they're 7 now.
Wasn't much.
Yeah. I mean, it just exactly as we keep talking, the twists and turns, the obstacles, the turbulence. Everybody learns when a problem presents itself.
Yep.
Talk to the forms committee, say, hey, this is going on. The forms committee at the association discusses this, and then we've got a new clause added to the actual purchase contract.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
that's another page.
Yeah, exactly. That's
every clause has to have a whole page of attorney speak attached to it. And here's the thing is you get clients that understand that the process can be difficult, and they maybe didn't get the outcome that they wanted, but they see what you did to help them navigate through, and they're still appreciative. I just got a text last night from some clients of mine who, I mean, the process was tough for them. We looked for a while. They ended up buying a house. It was a buy owner. The owner didn't want to pay me. So, but we worked it in. I'm having these conversations with the owner. We worked it all in. We built it in basically to the sales price. It short appraised. Right. So who, where do they want that to come out of? Well, that comes out of the commission, right? It's short appraised. My buyer, awesome people. Like, you're not cutting. You worked hard for us. So we're going to make that difference up.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
That puts a smile on your face.
So that was great. Now, it didn't end there, because we listed their house, and I mean, pre-inspected. It was full. We did everything on our end, and then after we closed, the buyers uncovered some things after they started pulling, ripping things out.
Sure.
Things that no inspection could have noted, things that couldn't have been disclosed.
Right. But
then they start going after my clients to, recoup some of the stuff that my clients talked to attorneys, and they said, no responsibility. No responsibility. Yeah. You disclosed everything, but these are good people, and they didn't feel right about it. So they came to an agreement where
good for them.
Right. Where they still gave them some, so these people, these awesome people, the house that they bought, they had to come out of pocket more than they anticipated because of a short appraisal. Then the house that they sold, they had to turn around and give some of that back because of some things.
I want your clients.
And they still texted me last night saying, thank you so much for everything you did. Because imagine, as tough and as difficult as that was for them, imagine if they were on their own, trying to deal with all that stuff.
We operate under a lot of different guises.
So good for me. Pat myself on the back.
Well done, Mr.
How great did I
do
there?
Well done. Yes, I'm proud of you, my friend. I'm proud of you. And that, that's all joking aside.
Right.
It's part of. It's what we have to do. We keep people level. We make sure that everybody understands what's on the table and what the different steps could turn into. If you go this direction, you go this direction. This could happen. That could happen. And that's where, back to earlier discussion, that's where our value comes in. Is people know, and again, the experience that we get, even though every deal is different, there's still different, aspects of each deal that are similar. And we start learning, okay, this happened here. I did this in the past. I'm going to make that step here again, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And that experience comes into play. And I think the perception is, well, if I hired a real estate agent, you're supposed to make this easy for me. And that's not always the case. There are difficulties that come up, and that's where a lot of our worth comes in, is helping you work with those difficult circumstances,
the unexpected
to get, ultimately they've got the house they wanted. and they've sold the house that they didn't want anymore, and here we are.
Everybody's accomplished the goal that we set out to accomplish.
Right,
initially,
exactly. So we don't eliminate all your problems. We help you work through the problems that arise.
And what's unfortunate is exactly that. They're typically not our problems, but
Sure.
we're here to take that stress on for you and to take
do
that
we
on.
ever.
Yeah, exactly. And that, that's again, you got to have that mindset to be able to work through those and not go home and cry yourself to sleep at night, which I've done before.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but that, comes along with it. And, there's days where I'm level right now, but there's days where I'm shaking.
Oh, yeah.
My hand
No,
won't
I
sit
know,
still,
man.
and
I know.
But we absorb a lot of that stress for our clients, and that is another huge value to a real estate agent because we can talk to them and tell them, hey, calm down, go deal with your work stuff, go deal with your life, let me take care of this.
Yeah.
And and then I'll call you tomorrow with a resolve, and congratulations, we got through it.
Man,
grown up stuff, right?
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
You're just a couple of Glenwood kids.
I know,
back
exactly.
in the day. And then
Yeah.
going to party at SIU and now here we are.
Just,
Gray hairs.
Yep, exactly. A couple extra wrinkles, that kind of thing comes along with it. But, again, jokes aside, it's so fun. And I mean, it just as well as I do. Yeah. I mean, it's just such a different experience every day. You're not walking into the same thing. You get tested. Keeps people sharp, keeps my grandmother sharp until she was 85, pumping through, still selling a few houses a year. I mean,
That's awesome.
I had friends that I was sending to her, buddies that are moving up towards Lincoln and, in surrounding areas.
Talk to my grandma.
And they text me, oh my God, your grandmother, she's fantastic. I love her so much. Thank you so much.
That's awesome, man.
Again, she was, up until 85, and she could still be selling. She just was like, I don't need to do this anymore.
I mean,
I've been
at
a
that
punching
point.
bag for long enough, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But just a different mindset. I mean, you really, as an agent, I think you think a little differently than a lot of people.
Yeah.
You have to.
Well, buddy, it's about time to wrap this up.
Are you serious?
We're
It's
over
been
an
an
hour.
hour? Holy
yeah,
cow.
We're a little over an hour.
Didn't even feel like it, brother.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's just
friendship.
Just free-flowing conversation,
Friendship.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate you letting me sit down. We'll do it again, for sure.
100%. Eventually, I'm going to run out of guests. I got to start circling.
Right, exactly.
I got to start circling back
again.
through.
Yeah. No
So
worries. Well, I'll be here when that time
we'll
comes.
get you back on. At some point, I would like to get one. I've got the capability to add a few more microphones, so I'd like to sit down. Maybe you and Adam.
Yeah, for sure.
And
we'll bounce things off.
Yeah, man. We'll figure that out. Just
that's a good idea.
Little table talk.
For sure.
Yeah, get a few people sitting there talking about stuff. So,
I like it.
Yeah, but until then, man, good luck with the rest of your day, and
you as well, my
try
friend.
to get some sleep tonight. Whatever
There
deal you got teetering that keeps you up at night.
We're going to talk some deals out here when we turn these mics off, too.
Oh, yeah?
Get
You got
some insider info.
All right, cool, man. I love
Let's
it.
do it.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
Play us out here with this music.
All right.
All right. See you, brother.